This week, we talked about how and when to discontinue treatments for clients, as well as the physical strain electrologists face and ways to protect our well-being.
Welcome to another episode of Mentorship Hour.
One of the important things that I think it's 2 points that have gotten asked recently on the public E2C page is how long do you need to be in practice? You could be a brand new electrologist. It does not matter the modality or the machine or the time spent being an electrologist, because all of those metrics make a difference in the sense of data that we're pulling in. Okay, so there's that first part. The second part is what happens if I can't stay committed throughout the research project? It is okay to drop out, just fully communicate with us. And if we don't see stuff being updated in a certain timeline, we'll reach out to you and say, hey, like we're noticing that it looks like you're pretty busy here and you're not necessarily updating this information. Are you still able to commit to this project? And it's okay if you cannot. It's just easier for us to be able to circle back around and know who is and is not able to be.
Yeah, one of the most important things with the case study is that it has to be consistent, right? So we can't really do much with data that is spotty or anything like that. So, and it's usually a fairly long process. So that means that the project will be at minimum like 2 years.
Yeah.
Before we can, start doing much of anything with it, because we all know that's how electrolysis works anyway. So,
yeah. Oh, talk about that. Literally, I had a person on the table yesterday that was a model for my student and who's on here. And she's sitting there zapping away and she goes, how long is this going to take? I was just like, the one question that is...
don't we just hate that question?
Sessions?
Yeah.
How many sessions are going to take?
How many sessions? Yeah.
Yeah.
How many times do I need to come in? I'm like, oh, no.
Oh, no, friend. I know you sat through my consult. You are not. You are not asking that question now.
I guess speaking of, you know what, Stephanie, let's just kick it off with that. Tell me, what's your answer?
Oh, my answer is the average person takes between 1.5 to 3 years, depending on a hormone imbalance. That being said, commitments, depending on like how frequently you can come in to what I recommend, how much you can handle on the table, right? So say, for example, you have somebody that can just zonk out and be there for hours on end, and we're doing, a nice feathering through every time they come in. They're going to get to that stabilization portion and maintenance mode of the staircase so much faster than the ones that can only commit kind of like a drop in the bucket every time. So letting them know that when I ask for this recommended treatment time, that is to get you within that timeline of 1.5 to 3 years. But unmanaged hormones, hormones for gender affirming care, chaos happening within their like medical stuff, when it comes to like medications, that kind of stuff, that all becomes additional variables. And that's how I answer it. It's because number of sessions, the reason it works in laser is that laser gets below the surface of skin before stuff can breach and early antigen here. So we get a better yield early on in that time.
And you can easily cover a large area. So it's, you're not dependent on density, really. Well, you are, but not in the same way.
Yeah. You're dependent on density in a beautiful way.
Yeah.
Like, because
joules, but not for time. So it's a little different.
How do you answer that?
I tell them that on average, it's any area that we do takes about 1.5 years, and then their eyes get this big, right?
Yeah. Right.
So then it's like, okay, I'll always follow like a blow with something a little softer, and so usually if I say it takes about 1.5 years, I said, but you have to remember the biggest commitment's in the beginning. And as long as I'm able to cover the area that you're coming in for and you're being consistent, we're going to be able to see each other less and less and less. So by the time you're at that 1.5 year mark, you really should only be coming in for like 15 minutes once every 6 weeks or so. So usually that kind of walks them off the edge a little bit. But in the beginning, if you just say it takes 1.5 years, and sometimes this happens in the classroom when they're doing the consultation, they'll say it takes 1.5 years, come weekly, or their students will come 3 times a week. And then people are like, excuse me, so you want me to do what now? So yeah, I mean, it has to be like, give them the harsh truth, but then always follow with something a little bit more realistic. If I tell them, the first 3 months of your treatment plan are going to be the most difficult because you're in here the most. I'm doing the most amount of work. And you're not going to see much happening really that you can really trust, right? Because it's different cycles. It's not the same thing. So I'll tell them, you and I are going to be best friends for the first 3 months or so. You'll see me all the time, but don't spend too much time trying to analyze the results just yet, because you're not at that point. Don't try to count hairs from one week to the other. Don't try to see if you're seeing that it's working or not, because you're not at that point yet. It's like one day you will be, but not in the beginning.
I should put that caveat. The reason I say 1.5 to 3 years is most of the people that come into our office are student-led work. So it's going to take them longer to get to their results, because we're moving for slow accuracy, not, established care. But I think that just like you, when you're like that first 3 months, they're the hairiest, they're the ones that, like literally, like not only just the hairiest with, bulk work, but they're the hairiest feeling, like where it's just your schedule just feels like you're overrun by them. But once we get past that part, and you start seeing that drop off in growth. And I would even say, like, one of my Zaplings is on the call right now, Laura, and like we've even been able to recognize in the time that she's been in school, like the progress that those consistent models are making, because we're following a plan, and and that's important in that space. And so when I'm talking through a consult with a patient, the biggest thing is, like, if you don't follow that plan that I recommend for what's going to be in front of me or in front of a student, you might as well kind of like throw the progress out the window. It's still going to happen. It's just going to happen so slow.
What's kind of cool is, like, I've been noticing with some clients, if they can stick around, the ones that come as models at the school, we've finished some certain areas, and so it's kind of cool to see. A lot of people tend to give up. I mean, it's normal, but there was a client that we used to have for her face, and I think I see her like maybe twice a year now and she comes in for something different. So it took about, like you said, like it takes about 3 years with student work.
Yeah.
To get through, an area. But I mean, for the discount, I'd have to tally up, like, how much did she spend? At my rate for the students is $20 an hour. So I'm just curious to see, like, was it really cheaper though?
Yeah. Probably not. It's I mean, if we double it, well, okay, student rate.
I mean, student rate is not like I'm much more than that.
Speed of what we do.
Yeah.
So if your electrolysis cost $100 an hour with a professional,
but it's not just there's also accuracy to take into account, So like, even if you are a fourth speed, also accuracy is not there. So you might see more regrowth. There's more factors at play too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But either way, it's still like, that aside, it still works, So
yeah, I'm like, we can still kill the hair.
Yeah,
it's
not as efficient, but it's Thank you for coming in anyway, because we need people like that for students to practice on. And for the most part, we always have our spicy ones. I'm sure you get some too. Some models are better off staying home, but for the most part, we've had some good ones, and some we have to fire. And wasn't there a question about firing clients?
Literally, the top question that we had gotten today is like, have you ever kicked a client out? And what reasons would you kick someone out? Mm-hmm. And the answer is yeah. In fact, on the medical side of things, we did today, and it was just their refusal to fill out paperwork. Not today. I should have said last week.
That happened to me maybe 2 weeks ago too. Yeah.
It's that intake paperwork. I know that a lot of people, even in our industry, feel that it's unnecessary. They just want to get right to work. And the fact is nothing about that person's background and the reason why they have that hair if they have not filled out the basics of that paperwork. And if you guys ever want to see the amount of questions I ask, I just digitized my medical one on my website, and you can go in there and kind of take a look. in my opinion, it's pretty dang extensive at this point. And even still, there's stuff that I'm actually adding to it. Because I was like, I like this question. I want to add this one. I'm going to be taking all the contraindications and turning them into check boxes for them to start checking off. And then that way it'll kind of like automatically give me red flags in my system. And so that's the next step I'm doing, because I was like, there's going to be a different way instead of me having to do this much homework. And then last week, when we had to say, no, I'm sorry, you can't come back in, they actually had a little temper tantrum that they, one, had to fill out the paperwork. Then they didn't fill out the paperwork, no-showed their appointment, knew that they no-showed the appointment, tried to call and act like that I was the one that no-showed. We were able to provide receipts of like when they were emailed their appointment, like all that kind of stuff. So like all of that kind of stuff. And the referral source was a medical referral source. And we said, hey, like this person just left a negative review saying we were creepy, but all of our interactions have been positive. And it was just because they didn't want to fill out the paperwork. And so their referral source said, absolutely not. I will go and talk to this patient. Went and talked to the patient, and the patient went and removed their review because they understood that the receipts were shown, right? And so when those intake forms are filled out, the quickest way for me not to have you on my table as a person, for whether it's for me, for someone I'm training, someone's employed by me, is refusal to do the bare minimum. Refusal to fill out the intake form. And the consent form, if you're putting your hands on someone's body, the consent form should be signed. We are very much in a litigious world. And so that needs to be filled out. So if somebody refuses to sign the consent form, then they've immediately refused service. Outside of that, it's poor behavior. So I normally won't kick somebody out for being like, I don't know, like different in their personality, but I will kick somebody out for being disrespectful in their personality. Because myself, you, if you were my employee, like any of you here, if you're being disrespected by that person to a level that is just outside of normal, then there's no point in those spaces to me. So that's mine. This episode is sponsored by Aesthetic Systems, distributor of advanced laser and electrolysis equipment. With a focus on technology, training, and client support, Aesthetic Systems partners with professionals to deliver safe and effective permanent hair removal solutions. Explore their offerings at aestheticsystems.com.
Yeah, we definitely had an issue with what I have, and this has happened more than once, is that I require for clients to upload a copy of their driver's license, so some sort of identification as part of their intake form. So, and I do this, and this is because I've had issues in the past, and I need every person that comes into my office to have verified identity. And so this actually was a consultation with one of my staff, and I can tell the ones like they don't fill out the form online. But then we can do it on an iPad when you get into the office. And the reason why she never did it was because she didn't want to put her ID. I don't know what they think I'm going to do with it, first of all. Like, it's just an ID card. Calm down. But, my staff, they get a little like, it's easy for me to be like, well, this is what I need. So if it doesn't work, then you can go somewhere else. I'm sure there's a place down the street that won't even ask your name. But that's not how I do things, and that's not a problem for me. But I realize that when you're newer, sometimes these situations make you very uncomfortable, or maybe you're just, you don't like confrontation. It's not that I like it, but I don't have much of a problem with being strict. So there's a difference. So she texted me, right? And she's just like, she doesn't want to fill out the paperwork. What do I do? I said, well, then, you can go through the consultation and explain how electrolysis works, but you're not touching her. She's just going to have to, we can't proceed with the appointment. And I guess the clients start crying, of all things. And I'm just like, I don't understand what to do at this point. But I said, tell her that our software is HIPAA compliant. It's going to be secure. I need every person who comes in to have a verified identity. And I said, when you're done with the consultation, give me a call if you want me to explain to you further why this is a problem. And so she did. The client ended up giving her ID and doing all that, and she did it. And it's like, for me, it's like, well, their biggest thing is like, well, the other places don't ask for that. And I said, that's great. Then you can go there, But for me, that's what I require. And so when I talked to my employee later, I said, listen, like I've had situations in the past, and sometimes with clientele in the service industry, there's situations that you might come across, that things like this for protection are kind of important, like creeps and perverts.
Yeah.
Okay. People are going to be less likely to try to do something stupid if you have a copy of their ID on file. They're just not going to try it as much. Or, and this happened to your mom, somebody comes for a service and splits, right? They don't pay. Yeah. If you call the police then to try to file a police report and they're like, what's the client's name? And then you look and it could be a fake name. How do you know?
Right.
You have no proof of who this is. Sure, you can use a fake ID, but then at this point they're hardened criminals, so there's not much you can do. But at the very least, I think it discourages petty crime and opportunistic types of people, right?
Agreed.
So it's not because I want, and then sometimes, especially with insurance work, names don't match, preferred names versus legal names and things like that. So there's also issues with that sort of thing. It makes it a lot easier for me when I have that kind of paper trail. But, at the very least, I feel like it's important. They're coming in, they're spending a lot of money because it's not just a $20 service. Sometimes it's multiple $100s. And then sometimes we're working on areas like private areas and things like that. And I have had creeps come into my office. And so, like it's just an extra layer, and it's not much to ask, just to make sure that if something happens and you have to file a police report, you could be like, here's the person's ID.
Yep. 1,000%. That is something that we moved to after the Botox and Dash people, because it just got to a point where it's like, there's no point in doing a semi even aesthetic medical service on someone and not really knowing who they are. For the creepers that we have had over the years, we have not experienced that in office since requiring IDs. Phone calls, absolutely. And what's very funny is my spouse, who is Guy, is the phone call, right? And so he is very quick to filter out weird phone calls because once they're like, well, buddy, does this happen? And he's like, no. And it's like, it shuts it down. And a lot of us are, assigned female at birth, natal female genitalia. People are going to like sit there and go, okay, like, you could be a target for me. And like you were saying before, like you're strict, you're not mean about it, you're strict about it. I am a very straightforward, firm person when I need to be. Sometimes it comes across as aggressive, not assertive. If I need to get like to the point really quickly in those cases. So it's something that I do definitely work on in those spaces, but it's okay as someone female presenting to put your foot down and say, absolutely not. Because they can't get away with that kind of stuff. And if that reason that you were saying, like where they're like, well, I don't have to do this at other clinics, ask yourself why. I mean, because like Charity had said, like, wow, I felt the reasoning. If they can't do their online forms, they'll never be a good client. That is so real. Why are you unwilling to fill out paperwork?
Why are you fighting already?
Yeah. I'm like,
just started.
Are you going to fight me on your treatment plan too? Because we're going to have a problem. So yeah, definitely a difficult one. If anybody has like their story of kicking out a client and what the reason was, you can always throw it in the chat too, because I think it's important for others to hear that, see that. You're not alone, and especially moving into an industry where you're usually going to be in an alone setting with somebody, know that you're not really alone in the community, and it's these conversations that decrease the amount of people that you would have to kick out. But it is also, I mean, during COVID, people's refusal to wear a mask when it was mandated, it's like, just do it. Like, let's get your hairs removed. Like, this is not like a hill to die on. But I see it happen.
And it's also not like life or death, So like I understand how it could be medically necessary, but it's not life or death. So if they're not willing to, adhere to what your requirements are, you don't have to see them. There's nothing that says that like, they're gonna die. It's not emergency medicine, so it's not the same thing. So yeah, there's no point. I think, it's important to develop skills where you can be straightforward, but also, like word it in a way that is not aggressive. That doesn't make people defensive. I think that a lot of people might get in fights sometimes just because of how stuff is worded, So one exercise I think is important is when you're thinking about these types of situations, you have to talk yourself through these scenarios. So if somebody, for example, is trying to negotiate your rate, and sometimes it doesn't have to be anything mean, but that happens, right? Some people are like, do you have a discount for this? Or would you do it for that? And sometimes people get taken aback because you don't know what to say, right? So you have to work through the script for that so that when it does happen, and it probably will, you have a good response and you're not going to freeze, right?
Yes.
And hopefully not agree, right? But like, what's your script? So if somebody's like, oh, you're 130 an hour, that's kind of expensive. Would you do it for 115 if I buy 2 hours or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So you got to work through what your script is going to be.
Yeah, and make it a little bit crazy in your mind, because the fact is that's going to happen. Like you're going to have. Just the other day, I forgot what forum I saw it on, but somebody was like offered like $2,000 for all of my whole body hair removal or whatever. And I was like, come on, like, like, who have you been peddling this request to in our industry that's like, oh, that's a great idea. Even as a newbie, if somebody is giving you like, well, if I paid you this tiny number, and you can never charge me again. Okay. I'm paying you $2,000 for all of my hair removal. Will you take it? Even if you're desperate for money in that moment, I will tell you, when you are no longer desperate for money and you're a busy technician and you're still seeing that problematic patient, you will not be happy with yourself. Because,
well, yeah. And I mean, the post was saying like it was like one pass through. So just one clearing, which already doesn't make sense. But then that costs more than $2,000. I don't know, like, I mean, $2,000. Let's say you're $100 an hour. That's what, 200 hours?
Yeah.
Which is not possible. It's late and I'm tired. So there you go. It's 20 hours. That's what I'm
like. So yeah, sure. That sounds good.
Yeah. 200. Sure. That's totally the number. So 20 hours. 20 hours. I'm sorry, but like, okay, sure. Maybe like both legs from the knee down, maybe a little bit of inner thigh. Depends how dense it is, but like your full body, like you're not doing bikini line to toes in 20 hours.
No.
And I'm pretty fast, but I'm not doing that. So, full back, full chest, maybe one pass through your back. But like, what if you're the type of person that the type of guy takes off his shirt, still looks like he's wearing a shirt?
Oh yeah, right.
Then good luck,
No Sue said it. The guy in Burien charged $1,000 for both, $1,000 for both legs of my Portuguese stepdaughter. She's been going for 3 hours a week for 4 years.
Oh my God! But what do you mean 4 years? Let's backtrack here. What's going on?
Wait, so he only charged. Wait.
He charged $1,000. She's getting basically from her toes to her bikini area. She's doing Brazilian. She goes for 3 hours every Monday morning. She's been going for 4 years. We figured like $1 an hour now. So, and I think it's weird because number one, this is his side job. He's also a pastor.
But she should be done at this point. Like 3 hours.
Well, and I saw her Memorial Day and, she came here and she came to my shop, and from her knees down, you could see everywhere where he didn't attempted an insertion, because she had scabs everywhere. She's like, it's like that every single time. And I'm like, you aren't getting electrolysis done, honey. You're
getting cooked.
She's going to get scarred up and it's not worth $1,000 that she paid.
Not even a little bit.
Well, I gave her all the information. She's still going.
Yeah, I guess you can lead a horse to water, but
that gives me agita. I'm like, that makes me so sick to my stomach. It's not even funny.
Well, and he's a pastor in real life, and he's doing her bikini area, and I'm like, he's getting paid. He's getting paid. He's getting paid in other ways, sweetheart. Go find another electrologist.
Yeah. That's wild. That's wild.
And it's like, maybe he just wasn't trained right, but like I had a client who she was getting her arms done, full arms, and she'd been going to this electrologist for like 2 hours every week and for a couple years. And I mean, when she came in, the hairs were still thick. She was still covered. And then she was all scarred up on top of it. So it's like the problem is like, it's not just the bad work, but it's that it's also damaging your skin, like every time you're going in and doing some sort of insertion. And so the electrolysis was bad also. So now you just have like a hairy, scarred up arm. So I'm picking up, but like I'm telling her, I was like, listen, like while some of the redness is going to go down. So she had like persistent erythema. While some of that redness will go down with time, is like the white spots, those are scars, and that's not going anywhere. So it's, as far as who was that, your niece, you said? I forget, but
daughter.
Your stepdaughter.
My stepdaughter, yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is like, if 4 years of work, I mean, it does some damage to the skin, and it's like, even if it wasn't, it sounds like it's pretty scabbed up. So it sounds like it's also too much power. But I mean, 4 years of like repeated work with no end in sight will mess with the skin no matter what. So it's not a good idea.
Charity, if you want to unmic and say what you said in the chat.
Yeah.
Oh, fine.
For it.
Like, if you're cool with it.
Oh, yeah. So this lady called and she was like, I told her that I had an opportunity for a consult and to come on in, and she had electrolysis before. So she was one of those that's like, oh, I only need like 15 minutes. Yeah. And, she wanted to just get in with the least amount possible. And so I was like, I can get you scheduled. We can actually do a little work behind the consult, but I do a consult for everyone, even if you've had it before, because I don't know what you've been told. And so, so she says, I said, we found the time and everything. And I said, I'm going to send you a link so that you can go ahead and complete your registration on the website. And she just absolutely lost it, like had a complete freak out immediately and was like, oh my gosh, I just can't do it. I can't do it, and like, it was just such a huge ordeal. She's like, if you just please let me come on in this one time, I promise I'll book online next time and I'll be your best customer. And I was just thinking, like, you're already not so far from my best customer. So yeah, it was just like a hard pass. And I was really stuck to my guns on it. And yeah, so
no, good for you.
I didn't want to do it.
Yeah, it happens a lot. The people, and I believe them. I'm sure they do need 15 minutes, and they have had electrolysis done everywhere. But the way that I usually tell them, especially when they're like, I've had electrolysis, I know how it works. And I said, that's great. Then our consultation will go a lot faster. Mm-hmm. But I like to explain how things work in my office.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I have got to say, Charity, I'm so proud of you to be like, no, we're still doing consult, because especially when someone tells me like, I'm going to be your best client. I'm like, you guys know that guy online, that's the red flag guy?
Yeah.
Okay. That's like, literally, I see him like doing the hops through the park with his red flag, being like, saying his cute little phrases whenever I hear that. Because it's like, I know that you're trying to de-escalate before you're even in the office. I'm gonna be your best one. How do you know? So, but thank you for sharing that, because there is some wild ideas people want to do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I did have another one like in the same week, and I was just like, what is happening with the universe? But I had another one. Yeah. And like they she had done the same thing, and like when I talked to her on the phone, I actually had a spot the very next day for a consult. And she was like, I've got an appointment at this time. I've got one at this time. And I was like, well, I can actually see you in between. That's totally fine. And gave her the time. And so we knew like she was going to be on a time crunch, but we also knew it was going to be a quick appointment, quick consult, and quick same deal. Had electrolysis before, just a few hairs. And so, I did the same thing with her. I said, I've got you penciled in. I'm sending you the link so you can do everything. You need to fill the forms out tonight and send them back to me so that I'm prepared for tomorrow. And she never booked the appointment online. She never filled the forms out. And so I'm like, is she coming? I don't even know. And so, so she actually did show up. I had a full day, so I wasn't like tracking people down. She showed up, and then when I told her, I was like, I didn't, I was like, it never got booked. I don't have any forms or anything. I'm like, happy to see you, but like, I can't do any work today. I need the forms filled out. And by the time you get them done, you actually won't have time for the appointment. And so she was just like, this is so unprofessional. And I just, I'm not, I'm old school, and she just didn't want to do the forms is what it amounted to. And I was like, I'm really sorry, but I have to have these for my protection and for your protection. Like, I need to know, some of your health history and stuff before I work on you. And so, yeah. So 2-in-1 week.
Having these standards is like the definition of keeping a professional office, you waiving that for just because, somebody's running late or whatever it is, she doesn't feel like filling out the paperwork is unprofessional.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we require 48 hours before to have your paperwork submitted. And usually we'll do like a reminder call the day before if it has not happened. As like that last, you have one more option immediately after this call if it's not done. And so we were taking somebody out of the schedule today, and they're like, just, your appointment's going to be removed because of this. And they're like, well, I was going to cancel anyway. Well, then why did you take up that time? Like, and my spouse was like, I knew the minute that those forms weren't getting filled out that this was not a real appointment. And it's just like, you understand their commitment level in that space. And I'm not saying, I have to think about how to say this. I'm not saying that they're not, like, people forget. I'm a forgetful person too. I'll forget to fill out a form, but if I get a reminder, I do it then.
Yeah.
And that's something that's important to me. As a technician, when we say it to our patients, like, we're saying, okay, this needs to be filled out with photo documentation 48 hours prior to your session. The reason we say that is then Michael says, because Stephanie needs to review your chart before your consult to get to know your history so that she can maximize the time with you, right? This is all about making that time on the table your time. And that's also why I put a $sign behind my consults, because it's a discounted first treatment of 15 minutes. So we can find the working point during the consultation, and it's essentially my cancellation fee. And so those people, if they don't show, they have to prepay that when they finally do make their next consult versus pay it at the time of service. And that's because they need to understand that you already stole my time. We won't do that again. And it trains them out of that kind of stuff usually.
This season, Electrolysis Unplugged is spotlighting our groundbreaking research project. We're working to bring legitimacy, data, and recognition back to electrology. If you're a practitioner ready to contribute detailed charting and client outcomes, or a student interested in learning the process, visit electrologycoalition.com, look under research, and get involved today. Together, we're writing the future of electrolysis.
It's funny that when you said, like, you can tell which ones are not going to show, I kind of have the same thing because on Vagaro, they could send out the texts and then it says, like, confirm by pressing here. And it changes the color of the appointment. There's a little band on the side. And so when I see a consultation that both did not fill the paperwork and did not confirm their appointment, it's like 9 times out of 10, they're a no-show.
Yep. Ugh. It's hard too, and it's not like they're all the time, but I will say, and Charity kind of hit like a little bit on this, there is a little bit more agitation amongst people in general right now. They're a little bit more finicky. They're a little bit more irritable.
Defensive.
Huh?
Defensive.
Defensive. And it's sad because it's like, why are you coming into a new space like that? But there is a bit of a trend. And as a new electrologist, I would not be like, I would know that there is a weird moment in time happening. I don't think it's going to be a forever thing. I think that people are just stressed about a lot of things right now. And so they're just agitated from the start. And once they get to know you, I see it usually de-escalate. Especially when you do hold those standards, like the standards of like, hey, this is why I do these things. It is everything I'm doing is literally for the benefit of your future in permanent hair removal.
Yeah. And I was going to say how important it is to kind of every time you have some sort of policy that you know might chafe, to have a reason behind it and how that reason benefits them in the long run. I think that tends to kind of change people's mindsets a little bit, you know?
Absolutely.
So, or like if I'm like with the ID card, you know, and I tell her, listen, like this is, I need to validate everybody's identity. It's not just you, it's everybody. Just know that my software is HIPAA compliant. So everything is very secure. Nobody sees that. It's just for your record on file, you know? And so then hopefully it takes her from like a 10 where she's crying back down to like, I know she probably still doesn't like it, but at least, you know, it's not triggering as much.
It's interesting because it's like, you think back to like, I mean, not many people use like credit cards. They're using their phones and stuff like that. But even on the back of credit cards, they'll say CID. So it was okay for me to see your ID when you were handing me money. But it wasn't okay when you were handing me your hairs. Like let's think about that in that moment. And sometimes it's like that very moment is like, I am going to get to know you so much more than your ID. And I just want to make sure that when I collect the money that is dedicated towards this treatment for you, that it is you, that nobody stole your identity. And I'm running your card, right? Because I got a pretty common name now. I'm, you know, now that I have like my husband's last name, it's like Shields is pretty common, right? But it's easier to steal Stephanie Shields' ID than it was to steal Stephanie Denacola's ID. And that's just because there was a component to that. And so I want to make sure that who's handing me that card should be handing me that card. And that's, I'm so glad we had this conversation because those are the people that usually do get yeeted out of the schedule.
Yeah, we had a rude one. I think it was this morning actually. And sometimes this happens, you know, we have models that come to the school and sometimes it just attracts some characters. Let's put it that way. And we had one and she was just like, sometimes I guess they're around, they hear us teach. And so they just become like, I know more than the student, but some of them are just so rude. You know, we had one that was like, oh, you're not doing it right. You're not going fast enough. Are you new with this? And just kept going and just kind of like to the point where the student was like, I don't want to work on her anymore. And it's like, I don't blame you, but that was one of those where like you get a warning where like you come here, you're not teaching, you're not doing anything. They are a student. This is how it works. And this is going to be the speed of things. And some are going to be good, some are going to be not so good. And that's just kind of how it goes. Week to week, things change. You know, if you're not okay with that, here's a list of professionals in the area. Be on your way, you know, but.
I mean, we had somebody today micromanaging my education moment with my student on the phone. And it was like, and they're like, well, maybe we should be going to a different body area if this is going to be problematic. I'm like, no. There's actually no problem. We always work to find the best possible treatment plan. And she's learning right now in that space. And so we don't necessarily need to. We're just talking and you get to hear us do that as somebody that is a model, right? And there's always sometimes like where they try to like make a suggestion to the students. And you kind of have to tell the students like, listen, they are not going to electrolysis school. You are. They think they know what I'm talking about because they've gotten to hear me say it so many times that they come up with like the like
yeah, that's the position or the try. You need the last girl was using an F3. Like, do you even know what that means? You know. So.
Yeah. Well, I noticed that sometimes when they use This modality, I heard her say 90%, and I'm like, no, stop it. Like, nope. So yeah, it is it's intense.
Yeah, I had one. It was a Brazilian, and they were working on the lower part of the Brazilian, but she wanted to be sitting up because she didn't want to lay down.
So you're gonna sit on top of my workspace?
Yeah, I'm like, magic? Is this how this works? You know, like,
magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't want to get into positions. They don't want to do anything. And it's just like, well, do you want this or not? Because in all honesty, like you can just go, you know, that's okay too.
I will find another follicle.
There will be others to take your spot. So
absolutely. And when they're in your office like that, it's okay to say that too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I never really, in my professional office, I don't really have people fighting me on positions. There was just one, and it was a guy, and it was working on his back, and he just didn't want, this hurt, that hurt, couldn't lay this way, couldn't lay that way, to the point where like the sessions for me became torture because I couldn't get comfortable, you know? And it's just like, you can't, I can prop you with pillows, like, but I need you this way in order to do this. They got to a point where like, he kind of just fell off my schedule and I did not do any chasing. Let's put it that way, you know, good riddance. But it's just, I can't do it. You know, I'm not going to be suffering for 2-3 hours, which are long sessions because it's a big area, just because, you know, you got an owie on this side. Like we can move you a little bit around, but it's impossible.
Yeah. we have to work together, my friend.
No, you have to help me, help you. That is the name of the game.
There was, we're taking a total shift in this, but I know that we talked about this when we were meeting beforehand. Somebody had asked a question about longevity in our career and how.
That it is a good segue. Let me read this. This is actually a submitted question. So let me pull it up because I have it loaded back here somewhere. One of my many tabs. Okay. So the question was, as a relatively new electrologist, I want to ensure my career has longevity. Do you have any tips for preventing hand pain and other issues that can result from repetitive stress on the job? So there was a couple things. I mean, we have two caveats, right? So like positioning is going to be probably the biggest one. So positioning of your body and having the right tools is going to be huge when it comes to this. And then after that, it's and this is where Stephanie's kind of like the queen for this, but it's having the right like routine to de-stress the areas of your body that became stressed, because we do hold, no matter how ergonomically perfect, we hold these positions for such a long period of time that there's always tightness in the muscles and strain in certain places. And so you do have to undo that, right?
Absolutely. So the reason I became kind of the queen at this is one, I came from a background of dance and lots of stretching and that kind of stuff as a kid. And I like weightlifting and that kind of stuff. And so I was noticing that my body was hurting anyway, but we got really busy post-COVID and my hands really started to hurt. And I mean, like, you already have wear and tear after, you know, at that point, I was like 15 years into my practice, right? So you already have wear and tear just naturally in those spaces. But because of the kind of activities I like to do, I was having a little bit more wear and tear, and I was noticing it happen kind of at a rapid rate. And it, for me, got a little scary because I was like, if y'all have seen me online, I like to crochet. I like to do little detailed work, activity, like craft activities. I like to do weightlifting. So that means I'm holding heavy weights. And everybody that's on the call, and if you're on screen, that's fine. If you're off screen, it's fine too. I want you to understand there is one term in our career that kind of sits out when it comes to like the weightlifting world to the electrolysis world. And that's isometric tension. Okay. And what that means is holding a space where you are holding basic body weight for a prolonged period of time. Okay. So think of your elbows floating outwards. During this time that I'm talking, if you just want to hold your hands out to the side of your body, like the letter T, and see how long it takes you to start feeling tension in your shoulder blades and in your traps, and like you can start to feel where it's starting to hurt. Okay. I had to go through some good physical therapy, and I was given a lot of tools to help me loosen my body up. So I'm going to show you guys some of these tools, as well as the cream that my massage therapist had me use, which is a CBD-based cream. I'm not selling it, but I will tell you the stuff's pretty amazing. Okay. And the reason I'm saying it is it just really helps with the inflammation. Turmeric also is another one. It was something I upped in my diet anyway with my PCOS, and inflammation sits in my body a lot. Okay. So the little lacrosse balls, now these ones have nubbins on them. If you guys look, they have little bumps and it's hard to see. And I will say that I'm not going to undo my camera, but you can kind of see that they have nubbins. Okay. These are ones that you would place against a wall. Okay. Drop it behind your back and you're going to rotate back and forth. And it's going to knock out a lot of little knots in your shoulder blades. Okay. I do not recommend heavy pressure on these balls. They are hard. A lacrosse ball is hard and they're uncomfortable. Now, a lacrosse ball on the end of like a bar, it could be like one of those wooden dowels that you get at like Home Depot. You can like pop the lacrosse ball into the end. You can do the same thing where you put that lacrosse ball into like the coupling between your shoulder and your pec. Okay, because that's another one. Our arms come forward, and so we get a lot of tension in here. And you can roll that area out. The harder you press in, the more you are massaging it, but also the more it will hurt. Okay, so do this, tread lightly. I really recommend looking up some of like the workouts for like the hygienists, for estheticians, that kind of stuff. People put these online and they're beneficial. And so I have like,
if you want to torture me, try to massage my pec.
Oh yeah.
You can go to town on my back, but the minute they flip me over and just light pressure right here, oh my God. I'll tell you whatever you want to know.
She's like, whatever the state secrets are.
Yeah, whatever it is, I'll give it to you. Oh my God.
This little friend is a rolling one. Okay. So a lot of times within carpal tunnel, and within like tennis elbow, within trigger fingers, it all comes down to a slight paralysis from pinching in those areas. This goes on a surface, like it usually is a desk, okay? And you can roll it back and forth on the forearm, up and down, and all around, okay? Now, this thing, I wish that it didn't have the nubs, mainly because it gives me the ick when I'm rolling down. I would rather like a smooth bar. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll put something around the outside of it, and I'll at least roll over the top of it. But this is my friend. And both of these I've gotten on Amazon. And I don't have the links right now because we started talking about this too close to the class. But I will do my best to remember to compile the links, and we'll put them in the notes section of mentorship hour so that you guys can at least go on Amazon and get this stuff. This one, I love her. Okay. She's basically a lacrosse ball inside of a roller. Okay. So it moves around. Okay. And this one I love for like my IT bands. So from sitting all day, your IT bands go up and down the side of your thigh. Okay. Into your glute area. This thing is like a hard massager. I started using this when I started powerlifting on my quads, on my IT bands, on my glutes. And what this does is it really does help kind of get a deep, when you think of like the kneading style of a massage, into those areas, but you get to apply the pressure. So when Joanie was talking about her pecs, this one, as long as I get my hair out the way, would be really good to start doing in that area because you can hold the one side and it will roll up and down and start to loosen that up. Okay. I still have more toys. Sorry. These are my Graston scrapers.
Ouch. That looks like a torture device too.
It is, and it will bruise you. But Graston helps you break up the myofascial tissue that has a lot of scar tissue around it in our type of work, okay? Because you're not stretching, it sometimes needs to be broken up by like cupping or scraping or acupuncture and that kind of stuff to start stimulating those muscles to do what they should be doing. So these ones, same deal. You can run them up and down the areas. I will say that I actually really like them. I know that they look like I'm like about to like brass knuckle somebody, but they are amazing. The one that looks like a knife, which is this one, I love for my quads. Okay. So those ones I tend to run in that area. I don't like this for my forearms because I am like clumsy with it. And I don't know how to figure out how to work that thing better on my forearms. But this one I can do. Okay. So, and they're all wipeable and that kind of stuff. Then I have two more. Sorry, everybody. I told you I have a lot. This is my therapy gun. It's not going to turn on well. Okay. And this thing, I will hand it over to my spouse and be like, listen, dude, up and down my shoulder blades, like lower back, over the back, like lower back glute area. Sorry, it goes up a lot. So there we go. I have to like turn it all the way off. It has different attachments. The ball is the most comfortable. The other attachments, they are attachments for this, but they look long. So these are the other attachments, and like this would be for like pinpoints along your like the spine area. This one is basically like a flat style of the ball. I don't care for it just because it doesn't have like the same like rounded edge. It reminds me of using the hammer on our cataphoresis tool. It's like less therapeutic. It's just moving like stuff around. And then this one, unless you don't like yourself, I wouldn't use this one because she's mean. It's like getting stabbed repetitively with God knows, like on like a tampon. It's like it's horrible. So not a fan of those ones. That's why they're not on there. And then last one was my husband bought me this year for my birthday. This plugs in. It has a little USB-C adapter. It's compression. So it stretches your fingers in reverse. So like if you look here, okay. So the compression, it kind of has an airbag inside it. It opens the airbag up on top and bottom, and it will stretch your fingers out because like our fingers kind of come down like this as workers. So it pushes them back up and it gives that extra little stretch on the end of your finger. And it's reversible for both hands. So it has like the same attachments. I don't recommend having a ring on or a watch on because it will get stuck in here. Just know that I found that out the hard way. And it also has a heat attachment. Okay, so say, for example, at the end of the day, you're just like, oh, I want something a little bit extra. That heat is lovely as well. You can time it. You can change the intensity. But those are all my little tricks.
I feel like I want the hand thing.
Huh?
I want the hand thing. And it'd be cool if it also like would cool, like to ice, you know?
Yeah. I was trying to think about like, could I get an ice pack in there? And like, you know, this, okay, so like
those little thin ones, you know, like they like, do for, like, something like that.
This is my lower back ice pack. If anybody wants to know, it's supposed to be for menses. I don't use it for that. I use it for my low back. I'm like, if I want, because I like to deadlift and that's uncomfortable after a while. And then this is the cream I was talking about. Oh, that's upside down. Sorry, everybody. That I use with my provider for massage therapy. Sorry. It feels lovely. It smells horrible. So.
So don't wear it. Don't put it on at the beginning of the day if you want to be around people.
Exactly.
Is what you're saying.
So those are ways that when you already feel like, God, this was a really long week. I'm really tired. My body is a little sensitive. You can, and to be honest, everything that you saw in here, and I didn't buy like the fancy ones. I bought like just the generic. They're not like brand names, that kind of stuff. I probably spent under $150 for all of these things. And I think the majority of my money was spent on my hand massager, my Graston scrapers, and my massage gun. Everything else was under $10 a piece. So it really, I mean, like you can do a lot of great stuff for a very limited amount of spending. I've actually considered at Zapmaster Distribution to start carrying some of these since like, you know, as distributors, we can usually access this kind of stuff. And I was like, well, maybe that might be a good thing for me to sell for Electrologists. I just didn't know if that was silly or not. I felt like, what do I put that under? Like, what's the tab that goes under? But I will tell you that if you're ever like, you get it and you're like, Stephanie, how do I use this thing? Just like, send me what you bought so I can see what it is. And I can tell you, okay, that's for this area. But foam rollers and that kind of stuff, if you're doing a lot of like long days where you're not sitting in good chairs and that kind of stuff, then those are beneficial for your lower body. But most of your tension and release is going to come from your upper body. And like if your hands are hurting as a starting point, it's usually coming from your traps and down. Okay. So it's this area keeping that tension so that it extends outwards. And so usually they'll have to work. You can't just be like, oh, can you just massage my hands at the massage therapist? They're going to say, no, we're going to start from where it's tight and loosen it up all the way down. So those are my tips and tricks. I see somebody that had a message in there.
Yeah, it's actually the
Yes.
link to the hand compression massager thingy. So,
Sue, have you tried it?
the
Is that why you put it up
proper
there?
name.
No, I'm impatient, so I searched.
She's already got it in her cart and on the way to
Like,
her house.
Yeah. I'm proud of you. I also, just so you guys know, because I'm obsessed with this kind of therapeutic stuff, because of all my shenanigans, he also got me the same version for my feet.
Mm.
Because your homegirl loves her feet massaged. And well, he'll do it for me at any time I ask. I could honestly just have like a whole day of my feet being massaged and be completely happy. And I've like thought about like putting it on one side of my treatment table and like my other one's using my foot pedal and like the other one's getting massaged. Like,
Oh my God.
but I won't be that
Are
extra.
we even working at this point?
No. I'm like, you want hair removal? I want a massage. We're working together.
Sounds like Anita said that she Googled it and it's a quarter of the price. So it
Yeah.
sounds like Anita's got the distribution hookup.
Yes, let's do this, girlfriend.
Just
I'm
getting
telling-
it out of your country might be a little tough, but
She's all smuggling it back to the States, our next advanced.
yeah, your suitcase is just full of massagers and just tell the customs people not to ask questions.
They're like, what is this, ma'am? She's
Yeah,
like,
what is this? Nothing?
No, it's an electrology convention, so it's gift for all my fellow electrologists.
Yes, that would actually be a pretty good gift.
"Ooh, I am not going to complain on that one.
Yeah,
right.
sign me up.
Right. Sign me up for all of it.
Sign me up.
I actually told Mike, I'm like, I want one for each of my hands. I know that's silly because then I
I
hit
just thought that. I was like,
Yeah.
you just do two.
yeah.
Save time.
Yeah. But part of it is like that therapy does bring you down at the end of the day.
Mm.
Like, and I'm like, yeah, I could spend 15 minutes on this hand and then 15 minutes on that hand and play my little matching games on my phone that I've been thinking about like leveling up all day and we're good to go. You know?
Okay.
I see one more message in. Oh no, that was Anita's. Cool.
That's it.
Well, does
Great
anybody have?
discussion today? Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. We have a lot of new questions that we've been kind of siphoning from online. If you guys have any further ones, please feel free to reach out. And we'll see you guys next week.
Next week.
Yeah. All right. Peace out, everybody.
Have a great Tuesday night.
So good seeing faces on here.
The good faces, though, right?
Yeah.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Boundaries and self-care are as important as technical skills. Thank you for engaging in this vital conversation.